If science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion, otherwise you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Yeah, so fuck up and die.
So David Lynch, right?
Creepy. Speaking of creepy creeps, little freaky deeks, dude.
Little freaky deekies. R.I.P.
I know. God, for reals though. This truly is like a we've had as time progresses and we do this podcast longer and longer, we will have people and idols and directors and actors that pass.
I know. And
this one hit really hard. Like, it's kind of weird. I feel like we were comfortable in him going because we knew it was inevitable.
I knew there was like an article like 6 months ago or something that was like David Lynch can't leave his house because he's on like so much oxygen because he's such a hardcore smoker. And I was like, dude, I'm like, yeah, he's like upper 70s, like he's not gonna make it. But it doesn't make it any less shitty because, and that's what's crazy too. It speaks to his legacy because it's like the dude hasn't made a movie in 20 years. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I was looking at that because I had to make sure. But he's been like actively
still
doing
so
something
present,
every day, like literally, like
Even if he's like not his art is present, which it is, like he's still like his shorts come out, and then obviously he did that, Twin Peaks, the third season or whatever, in like 2018 or whatever. So it's like he's still like in the culture and everything, but it's like it's hard to understate his influence on like other filmmakers and just like surreal in filmmaking, period. Like he's the guy. It's like surreal art. Obviously, like surreal was in filmmaking back at the start of filmmaking when like the surreal movement was huge and like 1910 and shit. It's like there's a lot of surreal stuff back then, but we went far away from it, and then he's the guy brought it back to us, to the modern cultural zeitgeist and all that.
And I think there's something to be said. Yeah, like you said, he wasn't the first, but he is probably the most influential in the last 50 years, at least.
Certainly.
And it's like to be a really good influence, you're not like constantly in the limelight. Like he's not a pop director. He's not coming out making an Oppenheimer. He's like
I want to see that movie. David Lynch's fucking Oppenheimer.
Right. And I think David Lynch is one of the funnest like trajectory of a filmmaker where like he didn't come out. I mean, he came out making little indie films out of school and stuff, and like kind of just doing whatever he wanted. And then when he got the studio film, it was like he got like basically 2 studio films and was like, oh, I do not like this
not
bit,
for
no,
me,
sir.
like
and so and he's like I'm gonna go back to making literally whatever I want, and just like. Well, how he speaks of film too, like every interview and all the like lectures he's done, he has such a passion. He has a Martin Scorsese passion.
He does,
for
dude.
It,
he's such a vibe too, where it's just like people are gonna like complain. He just like refuses to explain shit, and it's like that's kind of what I like about him. It's like not every movie is like especially nowadays, like everyone is so. Like needs to solve a movie. Like I'll talk to people that like if anything's remotely trippy, they're like, so this was a dream and this was like that. And I'm like, no, dude, you're like trying to solve this thing and it's just like meant to be an interpretive piece of art. Like it's not meant to be solved. And I'm glad he's like the first guy to be like, no. Like people are like, so it means this. He's like, nah. Like shut it down.
Right. And that's what's nice too. Is he will like literally just be like, you can interpret it how you would like. That's up to you. That's up to the viewer. He's like, your experience is different than mine. He's like, but it's funny because he's like, he's a little trickster because he'll go like, I know what it means, but I'm not, but I'm not going to tell you. You can have it and it'll mean something to you that's different. And I love that.
Oh,
this film does.
Oh yeah. This is This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. Jordan over there, Levi over here. Obviously, we're talking about David Lynch. Like, so he passed recently, and I didn't really know what theme I wanted to do for the month. because obviously we do like a theme every month, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to like watch a David Lynch movie. Like I was feeling it, no matter what. I wanted to watch Twin Peaks or something, anything, and so he's been on the brain lately. And then obviously today we're talking about Lost Highway, which I think is kind of his more like underseen, underrated ones. So I'm kind of like, I mean, because we already did the big ones, Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet. We've already done.
Right.
Which I would consider like the two big ones, and Dune. We did Dune.
Technically, I don't know if it's really a pod.
It was a bonus episode that no one's listened to. I don't think because it's old. But it was like one of the first ones that we ever did for Patreon. But yeah, this movie you've not seen it, right?
Yeah, this is kind of a no.
This is your first watch.
No, so yeah, and it's I kind of feel like this can be David Lynch's legacy, but I am on this watch of this film, which I guess, do we want to do like a quick synopsis so we can
a quick one because because his movies if you know anything about David Lynch movies, and if you're hopefully you have seen the movie if you're watching this, but if you need a refresher or you're the moms, his movies are not like generally plot focused. You know what I mean?
No, but not at all. But which is funny though, because I think that is kind of that is a misdirect for people who have never seen a David Lynch film. It's like, I think it's just because people are like, he doesn't make a strict linear narrative. He doesn't do like the hero's journey. Right. But he does though. He writes like stories, but I almost like consider them like vignettes on with like an overarching like connected tissue. And so it's like this movie actually has like, to me, I'm like, this is really coherent. I think it's a little more coherent than Mulholland Drive almost.
Oh, yeah. But it's definitely more straightforward. It's like definitely
right.
Like Mulholland Drive is like more focused on like what it's trying to do. But yeah, it's like it's this is more straightforward than what it is. But like how I described it to my sister is because I was talking about David Lynch and she's like, I know the name, but I don't think I've seen any of his stuff. But I was like, what I love that he does is he takes like an internal conflict and makes it like external and like so it exists like tangibly in the world he creates in the film, where it's like cops are coming to investigate it and shit, like, so it exists, but like there'll be a dude that represents fucking grief or something, and it's like obviously he's not human, but it's like, I don't know, that's what I like about it. It's all this he's so symbolic, you can't really take his shit so literally, but if you do watch it completely literally, it's still you could follow it, you know what I mean? Mostly, sometimes.
Right. I think
this one you can. I don't think this one's too bad. But so anyway, Lost Highway, right? Fucking I almost said Bill Paxton, Bill Pullman.
Well, I know the whole time I kept thinking Bill Paxton, but I'm like, it doesn't look like Bill Paxton. Anyways, yeah.
So Fred, which is like for some reason the worst fake like name for me. I don't know why. It's like I struggle.
I love it.
So Fred is a jazz musician living in Hollywood, fairly successful. He's got a wife played by Patricia Arquette, and I don't know what she does, but he's all worried that he's like a cuck, and his wife's like cheating on him, and he can't satisfy her, and then. Supposedly, and there's some weird stuff, they start getting tapes set off at their house that shows them like while they're sleeping, and it's all very shifty, and there's some very like weird paranoia, and this strange man that's like somewhat supernatural is like talking to him and shit, shows up at a party, but his wife is obviously fucking this porn guy, and then his wife dies very suddenly, and then he's to blame.
Yeah, dies. She gets eviscerated.
I know, but it just like it doesn't. It's not a.
He dismembers her.
It's not even a scene though. It's just like he's watching the tape.
No,
That's what's so good about it. It's like
It is.
And then suddenly she's just chopped to
all
bits.
you see it.
Yeah.
Like voyeurism, it just comes into his home through a videotape, and so like it's amazing.
It's just brutal, and it's like it's like a haunted thing. And then he's in jail. He's in prison, and Henry Rollins is there for some reason. Is the prison guard, which is very distracting for me.
I know. Well, apparently there's supposed to be like several more scenes.
Dude.
Like this movie had like an extra 30 minutes
that
to
makes
it.
Sense.
So I I don't even. Yeah.
We'll get into how distracted I was by all the cameos, but that I did not I did not notice the first time I watched this. But So he's in jail. He's the wife killer, and then there's like this weird lightning storm, and then the story completely shifts gears to this other kid, like Peter or something. I forget his name, but he's
it's important to note that Peter is, or no, it isn't. It's
like,
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, Pete.
Is it?
But yeah, Peter. Yeah, he wakes up in the jail cell where Fred is.
Okay,
Bill
yeah.
Pullman's character.
Yeah.
And the guards are like, I don't know.
That's not
I don't- he
that's not
just
the
showed
guy,
up.
and there's like some
yeah,
kid in
that's
there,
not the guy. You know,
It's some like
so they have to let him go.
22-year-old greaser. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some dude who lives in the valley. Like, it's just some regular kid.
They let him go, and he's like amnesic, and he's got like a hot young girlfriend, and then he gets like he's like shady, but like in a cool way. You know what I mean? Like he's like a mechanic, and he's involved with like the mafia.
He's a little dangerous.
He's just dangerous enough, but he's a good guy still. You know, but he's getting he's kind of involved in the mafia, and then the mafia's got this hot wife that is played also by Patricia Arquette, Alice or whatever, and so it's like this connection, and he like kind of falls in love with her, starts having an affair with her. It gets a little messy, you know. It's like the weird.
Well, Pete has two cops tailing him because they're curious how he ended up in a maximum security prison.
They're like, he gets more pussy than a toilet seat, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, David Lynch loves those lines. He loves like.
Well, he loves to give them to just like
crass and
greaseball
simple.
cops too. Like it just seemed like those are the guys who always deliver them. But it's eventually like things get a little crazy, and then he's like threatened by the mob guy, and it's kind of. But then the mysterious guy from the other dude's life shows up at one point, and it's like so there's like weird mixes. Like this is a David Lynch movie, obviously, so it's like there's like the weird connections. It does feel kind of like a completely different movie, sort of, but there's enough connections to the other stuff to like pull it there. Eventually, the other guy shows up. They fucking end up killing the mafia guy. And he turns back into Bill Pullman's character. And God, I'm trying to remember because the ending is like so fucking crazy together because it's like because she like bangs him and she's like, you'll never have me, right? And then he turns back.
Well, that was when he turns back. They're on the so they're at the safe house,
right?
And so they're like
in the desert.
They're on the beach and in the desert not the beach, but
it looks like a beach.
I know it's sandy. That was like one thing I got to note is like we'll talk about it later though. But the sand sex, man, looks brutal. But so yeah, he turns back into his regular, to Fred, the main character at the beginning, and they take the mob boss, and then together the mystery man, and then kill them, and then like the mystery man you just kind of blew my mind because I'm like I can't remember. But anyways, Fred's character Bill Pullman goes back to his house. And the beginning of the movie starts with him saying, Dick Laurent is dead. Then he says that into his call box on the outside. And then the cops that were tailing him, they go, oh, shit. It's like, it's him. He's out. And so he jumps in the car.
That's right.
And he runs away. And he's just driving down the Lost Highway. And he just like, it's just like, and it's kind of supposed to be like, either it's happening, it's like coming full circle, it's happening again, or it just kind of ends and he's having another episode.
Yeah.
So you don't know.
It gets really freaky, like prosthetics there, because he gets all like there's so like cool. Lightning, and he's like getting all swollen, fucking giant explodey head and stuff, and then it just ends right on the Lost Highway. So obviously that sounded really kind of incoherent, but you get it. You watch the movie,
right? And that's what
we tried.
That's so funny too. It's like. Yeah,
without getting like, really in the sauce. Like I don't want to get really in the sauce because it's like
that's what is so good about David Lynch is it's all of his little details. He'll literally just have a phone call and the guy will go, we've met before. He's like, and they're like, I don't remember. And he's like, yeah, sure you do. We met at your house.
At your house,
and that'll be a conversation. And that's it. It's like 4 lines.
They have that
then
same conversation twice, and the second time it happens, I like got chills. I was literally like, "That's so scary."
100%, dude. It's so scary, and it's so good narratively.
Yeah,
like it totally. You're like, oh, it's like because it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, he's talking to the same person, but it's a different actor.
Yeah,
and like, and it's kind of like one of those things where I'm like, okay, I get it. They are doing this like, it's basically him like. He has, I mean, this is just my interpretation, and which David Lynch would approve because that's how it works. But I feel like, he's having so much grief that he's disassociating and he's creating a new identity.
Right.
And this new identity, I feel like Bill Pullman is just rotting in a jail cell.
Oh yeah.
And or slash like maybe he did just he got out and then like committed another
Now,
crime. Anyways,
I'm pretty
regardless-
sure that like him, like the electric at the end is like him in the electric chair. You know what I mean? It's how I kind of got it. It's like
Right.
the Lost Highway,
That's-
though. It's like he can't escape his past deeds no matter what, and like even the mystery man like won't let him. You know what I mean? Makes him kind of confront it, and when he turns back to himself too, when she's like, no, because it's like. This guy, this Pete guy that he makes is like, he's trying to like clean his conscience and like split himself. So it is like interpreted to like he tells this story in his own head essentially that it's just like, oh, I'm like more like this guy where it's like I got a girl that's like, she, I'm like so good in the sack. I get, more pussy than a toilet seat. Where in the other life, it's like he just feels like he's not like sexually competent and like his wife, like he can't fucking, because literally he's like, he can't fucking finish in bed. And she's like, it's okay. And then she's like rubbing on the other guy.
And he has like severe control issues.
Oh,
and, like,
for sure.
Really like, he's very like neurotic. And so it like, he has massive insecurities where he creates this like alter ego.
Trying to
that
like
is,
absolve himself from like his own fucking things.
Right.
You know?
But I also think it's like, it also gives him, it's giving him kind of like a cop out for like her dying, like her disappearing, her death is like the kid. Cause when that happens with Bill Pullman, they're on the beach and the kid is like, Pete's like, can I have you? I want you forever. And she's like, you can never have me. And then she gets up and she walks into the safe house and she's gone. And he turns back in to himself or whatever, Fred, And so it's like, I think that's the moment where he's like, oh, okay, like I killed her and I made her disappear.
Yeah.
And now he's like back into like quote unquote reality, but he's still like living out this like,
and it's
still
like,
living out the fantasy.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like, and it's like something about like his denial of her and like how he is with her, because it's like it does feel like he's got this other girl, but then it's like she's not enough, and so like this other version of his wife comes in, that's like the blonde fucking alter ego version that's like so in love with him, and like just they have like a sexy, dangerous affair, and then at the end he's just like, oh, I want this woman that just like wants me, and it is a control thing, right? Like she has no real identity of her own. She's just like is obsessed with him and all this, and he's just like, I want you, and it's like this version of me doesn't exist.
He's a savior.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
He makes it a savior because like in his real relationship, she's very. I mean, I don't know what she does necessarily for work or anything or what but she has a strong independence at that party. She's very like independent and social, and so
I took that line.
He definitely feels a little antisocial. But
the line of where she's like, "You'll never have me," where it's like him realizing that he's like, he's in denial about like this is like the version of her that he wants, but then it's just like, and then not only did he kill her and come into terms with that, but it's just like he can never have that version. So he finally like the illusion broke, kind of then, and that's why he turns back, because it's like not only is he just like sort of the reality of what he's done creeped back in, and she's just not in the movie anymore after that. Right. But also it's just like, you'll never have me because this version of me that you've like made in your mind does not exist. Like this person that you've made that's like obsessed with you, like that's not a real person. That's a selfish person's idea of like what a relationship is. And I'm a sexy young bad boy, and Gary Busey is my dad or whatever.
I know, yeah, right. I know Gary Busey. Was that before the motorcycle accident?
Dude,
I think it was. he seemed a little more reserved in that.
Dude,
than normal.
There's so many random fucking cameos in this. I'll just talk about it now because Gary Busey threw me off. Like every time, because like Richard Pryor's in it randomly, and then fucking
which is his last. It's like
he's like in a wheelchair, so it must be like
no, because he looked. Well, no, it's funny because I'm like, man, that guy looks. I was like, he looks old, and then I was like, is Richard Pryor still alive in '97? I was like, no way. I thought he died in like '90.
Yeah,
I thought he died way earlier, and so I was like, is that Richard Pryor? And then I was like, oh, I wonder. And the fact that like that's what's cool. David Lynch doesn't. He brings in a character and like they have like a line. And that's it. And like it's like one of those things where it's like that's how come I'm like it's such a random throwaway character that I'm like, did he really get like Richard Pryor to be in this movie for this? Like it's kind of like that's kind of wild to me. Like, and I'm like, did Richard Pryor want to do this? Like, did he just, or did what is this like?
It does
did he audition
feel
for this
like
part?
someone's like with Henry Rollins too is like the security guard. It does feel like Henry Rollins is like. Because he was trying to get into the acting around this time. Like, Henry Rollins just shows up in the most randomest movies sometimes. But
He does. When I saw his name in the credits, I was like, who the fuck is he going to be? Like, what?
I didn't even notice it in the credits. So when he popped up, I was just like, is that Henry Rollins? God. And then I couldn't even pay attention anymore.
Yeah.
But
I know, and he was doing some funny mugging, dude. He was like, his face was
He's
great.
got such a square head, that guy, man. Like,
he does. He's very square.
He is.
He's like a very stout.
But yeah, and then it's just like Marilyn Manson was in it for like a shot. Like, I don't know.
well, and like when
and the
that was something
the weird,
there's
sexy snuff vibe films playing.
The hardcore porn, which is great because it's like that kind of gave me some like I was definitely thinking Boogie Nights the whole time he's like when he first offers him the porno tape and he's like you want a tape? You want to like when he's like you want to take this porno tape?
Oh yeah,
and like. But it's funny because didn't he call himself Eddie?
Yeah, it's Mr. Eddie is what he says, and then
Mr.
Eddie. He's got like two names.
Dick Laurent.
Yeah,
I guess Dick Laurent maybe is like his real name, and Eddie was like his porn. His like his
something
gangster name.
Yeah,
or or what I'm really thinking is like it's because Dick Laurent is probably the real human being that Fred knew in his timeline, like in his like in the circles. Running around and like that,
that makes sense because I was trying to think because it's like
because Alice and
Well, I was trying to focus on this time around, like watching, like with all his movies, they kind of click more a second time, obviously, but like,
yeah.
And so I was like trying to focus more on like the mystery man, like the weird guy that just like kind of shows up because he's so his presence is so creepy in every scene. It's like
it's so good. We gotta can we just say something?
He
real
brings
quick?
in the surreal, yeah.
Do you know about him? His name's Robert Blake. And
no.
In 2001, he murdered his wife and has never been in acting since because of that.
I thought you were gonna say he disappeared. Nobody found him because he just lives in our dreams now. Like,
no, I mean he lives in our nightmares.
Yeah.
He lives in So I'm like
that
he like 2 years after like 2001. It's a couple years after this movie. He and he was pretty abusive to his wife and daughter, and so anyhow,
chopped her limbs off.
I'm really bummed because I loved his character in this, and so it's just like he brought such a wild intensity, but it's like it is him. It's Robert Blake that brings that, the actor, but it's such a like how David Lynch makes his movies. It's
such a David Lynch
hard to
character,
describe.
Too. Yeah, because like
it is. Yeah, just like having one character that says like
that's
2 or 3
guy,
lines
though,
and they're terrifying.
That brings because like there's the whole structure of the movie, but like that's the guy that's like in every David Lynch movie. Sometimes there's more than one that kind of shows up, and it's like he definitely represents something else because they're always like otherworldly. And it's always like some.
He's kind of like the fairy in between Neverland and like Earth.
I mean, I interpret him in this as like basically either fucking his conscience or like literally just his like truth and reality, his impulse desire. Because it's like that's when he shows up is to be like, no, I'm here, I'm in your house. And like when he shows up in Pete's life, like kind of coming back to the Dick Laurent thing, it's like when he shows up at the end and is like friends with him and then kills him. And like executes him and like has his like that weird like film transistor thing.
I know. Yeah, that was cool.
It's like I feel like it's him trying to face the reality of like this fake bad guy you've imagined in your mind to like overcome and save the damsel from this sleazy porn guy that like makes her undress at gunpoint. That like doesn't even really exist, maybe, and like maybe Dick Laurent's only a name you've heard from like a sleazy producer in Hollywood that your wife is tangentially connected to, and so you like assign this identity. But then like this conscience, like this dude shows up in your perceived like thing that you're lying to yourself, and kills this guy, and is like, no, this is not even real. Like this guy is not even a fucking thing. Like he's not a real like because Pete doesn't kill him, like Fred doesn't kill him. It's like the mystery man kills him, and it's like I was like, what is up with that? You know what I mean? Because it's like this guy obviously. "Quote unquote," I'm doing quote fingers for if you're not watching, is like he's not real. You know what I mean? He's that character that represents something. Like he's like the Bob from Twin Peaks. You know what I mean? Like he's the fucking
no.
There's always that guy that like comes in and it's always
like,
so eerie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in Mulholland Drive. Like there's there's that like. There's the trash man that lives in the dream.
Yeah, and then there's the cowboy. The cowboy.
The cowboy. Yeah. God, the cowboy's so cool. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, cowboy's awesome. But yeah, where Mystery Man, he shows up like when he's needed.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, that phone call is probably some of the greatest like filmmaking ever. Like having just the first time, and he's like here. Like
at
make
the party.
Phone call.
Yeah.
That's such at the party, dude.
Call
that is
your
such
house.
A David Lynch moment to be like. To just like, it's so weird. It's like if it wasn't David Lynch, it would be so derailing. Like he does so many things that would derail any other movie.
Well,
but then he just throws on a sick ass soundtrack when that like after it happens, and he just has like him like dooting on his like fucking sax, or like he just has people like walking home and just like you know what? Every time I watch a David Lynch movie, the actors like they definitely deserve a rewatch. Like that's just a given.
Oh yeah.
Because when you look at the actors. You're like, what movie do you think they're gonna be in?
Like, do they know?
Imagine
like,
when they're making this movie, like they know David Lynch. Like, he's already by '97. He has
for sure
a rich history.
For sure,
but even then, I'm like thinking like you're in this movie and you've read the script and you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. This dude has like he kind of has like a dual personality, and it's like you're like, this is cool. You know, I wonder. But then as you're making this, it's like so quiet and subdued, and like it just. All of the things they talk about too, like the dialogue is so like stilted, and I'm just like, it's got to be like, you got to just trust him. You know, David Lynch is going to produce something that is very entertaining. But it's like I just can't imagine. Half the time watching them, I'm like, I don't know if they know what film they're in right now.
I know,
like
because he does have kind of
works
a thing.
so well.
Yeah, it does. It works great because it is like it's interesting. If it was anyone else, like he's got such a certain flourish. Because sometimes you're watching it. That's just crazy. It's like, I'll be watching it sometimes, and during some of the normal scenes, you know, like when the cops first show up and they're like investigating, it's like, yeah, everyone is just delivering their lines very just like matter-of-factly, very stilted. It's shot very kind of just plain, you know what I mean? It's like, just like no flair, but it's like there's something still about it, and it's like that makes those scenes that are particularly like dark, like just him looking down that dark hallway. Just like all the
I know, and David Lynch is so good at that like negative space too. People just kind of looking in a corner and there's nothing there, and you're just like, this is so weird. Well, it's so eerie.
They bring out a certain existential fear. Like his movies are always like I wouldn't even consider any of them horror, but like they all scare me. Like they all like there's so many scenes in every David Lynch movie that like watching just like gives me chills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
it's because it's like it's his suspense. Like he's mastercraft and like creating this suspense and this like, and that's what it is. It's like it's a really good punchline because your anticipation for what's going to happen next, and then it doesn't happen. It does. It makes it like my stomach kind of drops a little bit, even when like nothing has happened. Like the most simplest things, like even just the opening of this movie is the call buzzer going.
Yeah.
And you're just like, he's just there, like smoking a cigarette in the morning, and him like walking, and it's just like all it is like, you know, Dick Laurent is dead. And then he walks, and the home that he lives in doesn't even have a front window. So it's like there's little slats, you know, it looks like a prison. Like he has to like, you know, he's like, oh, this is weird. Sure. And he like tries to look out the window, and there's just like nothing there.
It's a paranoia.
You expect to see a car drive away. Yeah, the paranoia, dude. Yeah, he like, and it's so funny because David Lynch, like, he doesn't seem like he suffers from paranoia. He seems like every interview, he seems like so really. I mean, I don't know. He kind of seems like a goofball, but
he does.
He's a little odd duck, but
a little goofy.
It's just like I don't know. He doesn't. Yeah, but I guess that's a lot of them too. Ari Aster too and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. It's like it's what gets me is like the fact that like something that's seemingly normal, but like this dream reality starts seeping into the movie, and it's like nightmare reality like just pokes its head in, and it's like almost fourth wall breaking, but like in a way that's like very unsettling. Like the scene, the first like there's a couple scenes like before it's like, but that's like artistic integrity, like the smoke's coming up the stairs and the videotapes and all that. But it's like the scene when he comes to the party and the guy's there and he gives him the phone. It's like that's like a fourth wall breaking moment where it's just like you're shattering your conception of reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like the way that Lynch does that, like he kind of just brings it back and then brings it in. Because like even like Twin Peaks is like on the surface feels very like just like a soap opera, but then it's just got like this weird unreality just bubbling up all the time. You know what I mean?
And that's what he'll do. He just will have one scene where it's like, God, I'm trying to think because the I don't remember exactly the connective tissue, but after Pete gets out of prison, he comes home and it's like the next day. He's in the backyard and it's just like this like beautiful suburb. Like it just even David Lynch makes different movies inside of his movies, and that's kind of why I was saying
true,
it's like
yeah.
it's like very vignette-y.
It is.
He has like just scenes because it's like with Pete, a lot of Pete feels like a completely different film, but yet somehow very connected in like, and probably just because, you know, they suffer from similar like ailments and like physical traits, and then adding the characters in that are, because he loves to do that. He uses the same girl in his movies, and he likes to break your brain with that, like twins. He must have like saw twins when he was young and been like, whoa, that's weird. Like I gotta do that in all my movies.
I can see that.
But the scene when he's in the backyard and he just like looks over it's like edited. I mean, I don't know if your copy was like this, so it could have just been the version that I watched was really weird. Because you notice there was some like really weird glitchy jump cuts that would just be like, it would be like there was a time when they were talking to the reporters and they're like, let's come into the room, and then they're just sitting down and it's just like a weird cut. And then there was another time when he like goes in the backyard and he looks in the next door neighbor and there's just like a swimming pool there, and it's just like I'm like, what is gonna happen? Like a little baby swimming pool, you know, next to that dog, and like it's so weird. I'm like, David Lynch sets these up to where like you're like a character is going to come in and give exposition now. Like that's what you're into. Like you as a viewer are on edge because the whole time you're like
conditioned.
Oh, it's going to be explained. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're conditioned.
Yeah,
and
he knows how to subvert your expectations.
Yeah, and that's why his shit stands out so much a lot of times is because it's like you're conditioned by film so often. I mean, like, you know, 99% of the shit you watch is like got very, you know, formulaic, and some of the good formulaic stuff is like very solid. But it's like, you know, like movies have a language, but it's like, yeah, he'll just show you a thing and just like, and then just move on from it. You know,
and there's no, and that's what I was kind of getting at. Is yeah, like those little bubbles of things where it's like, it's like kind of like, oh, this wasn't important at all, and like but he put so much emphasis on it.
He's trying to unsettle
like,
you too, though. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like it's
yeah.
That's something that can only be done with film, and that's why film is so cool.
Wow.
Is because it's like just like these details of just like building a feeling. You know what I mean? And leaving an impression, and it's like having this like perfect suburban backyard thing. It's just like it only it's pretty insignificant, but it only adds to the like fantasy that he's created for himself, you know, and how the shift and change goes before it all devolves kind of again into more like a weird conspiracy thriller that he makes for himself, you know. And it's like that's what he does the same thing with like Blue Velvet, you know what I mean, where it's like just like the very picture perfect suburbia bits, and it's just like it all, because that's like probably is one of his other than like the big director ones like Elephant Man or something, but like coherent in a way. Yeah, because it's like, you know, as it leaks in, it's like there's always just something, I don't know, I feel like he thinks everyone's wearing a mask, you know what I mean, of like it being like right. But there's underneath they have like bad intentions, and because it's like his movies feel like that, like when something is too good and too nice and it's just got like jazzy fucking music in the background.
God, dude, his music,
it's like a point.
It works so well.
I don't know, because he's also having fun with it too, you know, because you mentioned Ari Aster earlier, and he obviously, he's very clearly inspired by Lynch, and
yeah,
but like, and Ari Aster has fun with it in his own way, but it's like David Lynch sometimes, like, there is levity in his movies, surprisingly.
Yeah, and I feel like this movie actually, maybe because it's my first watch, and so like I didn't really find. I think because this is like a
This
neo-noir,
is one of his
he kept
darker
it all-
ones, though.
He kept it all cool. Yeah, exactly. He kept it really cool because he will do a lot of like. He does like he'll have a character that's reacting in a weird way, like kind of a straight man, or or someone who's like bouncing off of a straight man, and he'll do that dynamic often in film. But it's like this movie felt like he was trying to. This is the movie where he's like, yeah, I want it to be like an ashtray just packed full, and I just want it like when he just all the shots where she's like her lips and it's just lit, and she's like, I think he suspects something, like Eddie suspects something. It's like it's so fucking noir. And like it's such a good neo noir, dude. To have like an old jazz musician that murders his wife and then just has like that just splits off into a different human.
It's I know, right? I forgot honestly because it's like so the first time I watched this movie, I surprisingly remember it quite well, but I watched it in that era, in high school and 15, 16 years old, something like that. And
when you watched 800 movies,
I did. I watched like 800 movies really. But I surprisingly remember it quite well, but I don't remember this movie being so sexy. Like, just like so...
Oh, dude.
Like, I wasn't kind of ready. I'm like... And it went from one sex scene to like the next
sexy.
sex scene,
Right. And but it was like... So I was actually just thinking about this too before we got on. Like, how we have, on this podcast historically been like, sex scenes are typically pretty useless in a film. And I actually honestly do feel like they're... like... I know. I mean, I don't know. There's probably like I think some of it's a little gratuitous, but it's almost like it's kind of all necessary in this film, and how David Lynch.
Well, it's very much.
His film.
It's 100. This film it really makes sense because it's like
it
in
really
his
works.
fantasy,
I think,
and it's very much his insecurities about his sexual life.
It's all
and
the
his
character,
real life.
all the character development.
Yeah.
Arguably, the character development comes from the set for when they have sex, when they're having sex. That there's a lot of character development in those from both people. Even when Pete has sex too, it's like he does it. He either he's doing it for passion or he's doing it to blow off steam and kind of just use somebody, and that's the cruel part of him.
Yeah.
It's like when he's banging his quote unquote girlfriend. But I think that when she was getting at the gunpoint scene was kind of dumb, but that wasn't really necessarily a sex scene. Also, it's just kind of. And I don't even know exactly what that was supposed to do.
I think it's.
I guess it's to show that how evil he is. Eddie was.
Yeah, it's just.
To show
I think
that,
it's Fred in his fantasy being trying to make a justification for this guy to be the ultimate oh, I'm saving her. She's the damsel, because it's he makes this fantasy in the suburban, and he's got this girlfriend, but it's not enough. He's got to get involved in this. He's got to be a kind of a hero, and he's got to rise up and kind of save this girl from this evil, from this sleazy sex ring,
cool,
which in his real life he imagines his wife is involved. That guy is with this porn stash,
Yeah. I know when his death is also very dreamlike, where it's just he's got
coffee table,
8
halfway
inches
through
of coffee table in his skull, it just goes in, that just that's beautiful. This feels so it's just 90s drip, dude. It is saturated in the 90s.
It definitely is.
It's great.
I know. It's fucking Rammstein playing in the background and shit.
Oh my God. No, that's something. Okay, I wanted to get to that too, because it's the fact that it's Manson too. There's a song with there's there's a Smashing Pumpkins song, and there's a Marilyn Manson song in it. And then I was oh, Marilyn Manson, and then obviously Rammstein, but when Marilyn Manson showed up, I was just what is going on? How David Lynch dude, I wish that he was still making movies.
Weirdos love him, man. That's the thing. It's he's the OG weirdo without being too weird. He wasn't a creep, and when and as far as we know, hopefully, and
yeah, sure, yeah,
but he was just a weird artist, but was also so charming with his super black coffee and his cigarette. He's that kind of artist.
I know, and his hair too. It's clearly
he's got his
silhouette.
Hair, dude.
He's got one of the greatest silhouettes in the land, dude.
It's true.
He looks great, and so, but I know what you mean. It's I always think of Lynch and Cronenberg are the two. They're the two where Cronenberg really satisfies an itch of true body horror, and his goopiness is fun. Where Cronenberg, most Cronenberg narratives are fine, and I'm they're cool. Where David Lynch, like, he'll do every once in a while, he does some, like, this has body horror in it. Like that, it's like a little weird capsule vagina thing opens up and you get sucked into it when you come back to Bill Pullman or whatever. Bill.
That does remind me most of like Mulholland Drive, where it's like, because like this movie, like structurally and thematically is pretty similar, but like it's like the shots in Mulholland Drive where it's like falling into the pillow, you know what I mean? It's like literally like it lives in that dream world. It's like that's kind of all that shit. Like he does that too, where he's like the transitions of like going into something super crazy weird like that.
Right.
Yeah, there is some body. At the end is body horror too. The way he like puffs up all crazy, it kind of freaked me out. I kind of forgot about it because it's so sudden.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's so cool. And I love the like it's just that surreal dream, like where he's walking through the hotel, the Lost Highway Hotel,
right,
and motel or whatever, and it's like the lightning and thunder in the hallways and stuff. Like it's done so well that like when I think about that in a novel or any other kind of like format, it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't. It'd be like it's so difficult to write, like, because he almost makes like cosmic horror adjacent films. Like I wish,
for sure,
I wish that he one day could have done like a bigger cosmic horror, made something like
can you imagine? I still got to see Inland Empire. That's like the only one, but fucking and finished Twin Peaks. I never finished it, but I don't know, man. This guy, I liked it. I never didn't like. I liked it the first time I watched it, but I liked it more this time. But I remember the first time I watched it, and I still kind of feel like this, being like slightly disappointed, only because the first 30 minutes are so like creepy and interesting that like, but like when it turns to like the Pete sideline and it's like it is a completely different movie, and like contextually it makes sense, and like trying to kind of see how it connects to the other stuff is part of the fun, but it's just like on its own. Especially first time watching it as like a 15-year-old or whatever, I'm like, we just spent 5 minutes of this guy road raging on this other random dude that has nothing to do with it.
But I love that.
I
love that because that's definitely like David Lynch in an interview.
That's like one of the most comedic.
I don't like
for sure. Like
exactly
felt like him ranting.
I forgot. That was purely David Lynch being like, I hate tailgaters. Like,
Yeah,
he was
literally.
Just like, he's like, don't like them. So I put it in a movie. I forgot. It's comical, but like also like, it's so sad. Like that guy, he like pistol. It's like feels so real. Like he pistol whips him, and he's just moaning. Yeah. He's just like, oh. He's like crying.
I know.
I'm like, he's a piece of shit. He deserves it, but it also is hard to watch.
I know. Well, it's just like all that stuff. Like now, this time watching it, I got like a little bit more sophistication of the cult of cinema knowledge, in my brain. It's like, so I engaged with it like on a much better level this time, and not only because I've seen it a second time, but it's like first time watching it, I was still trying to suss out the Lynchian vibe of everything. But that first, like the stuff with the tapes, I wish there was more of that, man, because it is so.
I know.
Like
it is so
that's
freaky.
Part of what Dreamer came from that. Like Dreamer was inspired by this for sure.
Hell yeah!
Short film
of course.
that we made for those who are like, "What the fuck is Dreamer?" But
go to our YouTube. It's out there.
I know
it's on.
But like,
actually, I don't know, what is it on. Is it on YouTube?
I don't know.
Is it just Kith?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Go find it. Yeah, go find our little short.
Yeah, but I don't know, because it's like something about that. It's like just really deeply unsettles me. Like the whole beginning stuff too, because it's like this time watching it and kind of knowing how it ends too. The line of him earlier on with the cops being like, "Oh," she's like, "He hates video cameras," and they're like, "Why do you hate video cameras?" And he's like, "I like to remember things, how I want to remember them, not necessarily how they happened." And I'm like, that's like the thesis of the entire movie.
Yes,
that sums up where it's just like, he just makes his lies to himself to make his own reality to try and absolve himself from his fucking evil deeds and shit. But like. That whole, like, something just so unsettling about it, like creeping in, because it's like, watching the movie, just like the way it's made, and if you were at all familiar with David Lynch, it's not like somebody's actually breaking in their house and just recording them like this real tangible thing. Like there's definitely like this weird fucking like existential, almost supernatural undertone to like these tapes, and like just this idea of like looking in, because it's like,
and that's what David Lynch said. He's freaked out by videotape. Like when it first, when you could like have that in your home, and he's like, anyone could. It was one of those like the camera's so small you could just film anybody anywhere, and like this like invasion of privacy was such a big thing on his mind during this that like he just like I love that idea of it. Like it's voyeurism on like on a spiritual level. Like it just comes in out of nowhere.
Well, and in the context of this movie, it's fucking terrifying because you see like the fucking the mystery man with the video camera holding up to his face, and he looks fucking scary as fuck. But it's like, and knowing that Fred is like does not like them because they represent objective truth really says a lot about like what the tapes are. It's like he's trying to shut it out, and the tapes are like trying to be this reminder, because that's the only time you see the death of his wife is on the tape, and it's like they're coming in trying to show you the truth, the real things that you can't handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's almost that's like the things on the tapes are like the true things Fred has to face, because there is no he doesn't get to remember it a different way, even though like afterwards he sees the tapes, he's like I don't remember doing it that way, like I don't remember.
And it's like
happening,
an extra level of separation too. It's like a disassociation from like, it's like you hear so many times of people. It's like another level. Like we know he's like disassociating by like imagining this entire fantasy world for himself, but like the fact that the crimes are shown like leaking in through videotape, this objective fact, but also just like being shown from a distance. It's like we talk about it when we talk about like found footage films, about how like there's just this separation where you can separate yourself, you know what I mean, through the lens.
I love the line when like Mystery Man has it, and that's just it's so simple, because he's like what the fuck is your name, like
so
and he's asking him his name, and like he had like it's great for like their narrative to be like, I have to confront myself, but he just gets to run away, and then it comes back. And I have to say something. One of the greatest things about this film that is terrifying and hilarious is the Dick Laurent is dead. That literally happened to David Lynch. That is a verbatim thing that happened to him. He was at his home, and someone on the call box came and called and said Dick Laurent is dead. And ran away and was gone. And he didn't see them. He didn't have them. It's like a real thing that happened to him. And that's just such a layer of like awesome and freaky and like kind of cool too. Like LA's fucking awesome for that. Like it just.
I'm gonna get a tattoo just like somewhere on me that just says Dick Laurent's dead. Like just somewhere.
Yeah, dude. That is a good. Yeah, that's a good tattoo.
That sounds like
a
right.
call box. A call box with it.
That sounds right up his fucking alley, dude. Like of course that happened to him.
Sounds
And
like
he's just like,
that happened to him. Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. That's it. Oh, it's so good.
Anyway, what do you know? Obviously, this movie, it's like I feel like it's not talked about as much as his other ones. Just I think because Mulholland Drive kind of does a similar thing but better. But like,
right, I agree.
And his legacy.
I think that this is cool for like this is such a cool like sexy noir. That's just that violent. I think it's just like it's great.
What do you know? Like a money minute, like did it do well at the time? I'm sure it's fairly popular because maybe not financially, but like all his movies are kind of cult classics, if not like box office smashes. But he's had a cult following, since fucking the 70s. But then obviously since Twin Peaks is when he really got like household name vibe almost.
Yeah,
Twin Peaks
almost
was huge.
though. I mean,
not quite, but it was
No, right. Because that's the thing. He's
that's
one of
the
those
most
like,
popular he's ever gotten. It's like,
yeah, he's one of the most influential directors that isn't really in the scene. That just, that like everybody's kind of heard the name because David Lynch is like Cronenberg. He has his own style, but it's like no one's seen his movies. Like not a single person has seen a single movie. There's like, no, I take that back. I have two coworkers and they love Twin Peaks, and so it's like, sure, that tracks. Twin Peaks is awesome, and so it's like,
I know,
but a little more accessible too.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who know the name but I've never seen anything, right? And it's because I think it's like obviously people, he's such a staple into like this style of movement of like the surrealist in like film is that like people refer to anything kind of trying to imitate it as Lynchian.
It's Lynchian.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? The
right.
fact that your
Exactly.
name is getting fucking set to like a subcategory. It's like Lovecraftian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Oh, he'll. That's what's fantastic. For the rest of our lives, he will be an influential director that people will like. You'll make a movie and then like, oh, it's very Lynchian and like dude, every fucking nerdy art house kid out there and every like film enthusiast, they're gonna watch Eraserhead for the first time and go, oh fuck,
I want to watch
this is
Eraserhead
what you
again.
could do with movies, dude. I watched I was watching like a YouTube video essay about David Lynch, and they talked about Eraserhead, and I just like forgot how good
insane
that
it is,
movie-
dude.
Just and how like it's so insane that like it's like Harmony Korine, eat your heart out. Like everyone just like it's gross and freaky.
It's like
and I
mid
just love it
70s too.
so
like
much.
nothing like that.
Dude.
Like nothing like that
Yeah.
existed, man. It's crazy. Like
No,
but that's what's
man.
I don't know. That's part of what's so good about him, man. It's like he just
God,
film.
It's-
It kind of
yeah.
shows you like what. It's like he does something that film is more than just like a I like that he's such a weird artist because it's like, yeah, film is a great medium to tell stories and like to like do all this stuff, but it's just like he comes at it from like a very perfect blend of being like an abstract artist trying to like make art out in the world, and so his movies are like always kind of like experimental and like a little bit more like avant-garde and like just like abstract. People can't get it.
And you said it great though. It like he creates movies where a whole character is an emotion or a concept or an idea or like they represent the like main character's conflict, and it's like it's so cool because it's done so well, but like it's not blatant. You can't tell, and you kind of have to like you have to study his films almost. But you can still enjoy them the first time you watch them. That's
for
That's what
sure.
I love.
Yeah.
Like this movie was amazing. This is the first time I've ever seen it. So
Yeah. Well, I'm glad.
we'll do his. I'm gonna watch his whole filmography. And
I need to.
I gotta go like chronological. I haven't seen Elephant Man since I was a kid, and like
It's been a long time. So Elephant Man was that era too when I first watched Elephant Man, and
my dad loved Elephant Man, and so I've seen it when I was like really young, and I remember being like, oh, it's so creepy, like it's like and so human, like oh man, like it's amazing.
like I'm not a monster, I'm a human being or whatever. I know they just put Inland Empire. I know it was like hard to see for a long time. That's why I never watched it. It was like you couldn't really like get it anywhere
Well,
unless
dude,
you bought it. But now it's on like Max or something. I just saw it like not long ago. And so
It is.
yeah,
Okay,
and
so-
it's like I'm pretty sure it's Max, one of them, and so now I'm like, now I have to watch it because I gotta watch Inland Empire and I gotta start over Twin Peaks and just finish the whole thing because I never finished it.
Well, dude, there was what is it? Is it Patrick Rogers from East Hollywood?
Yeah.
I remember Inland Empire when it came out. It was playing at the Tower Theater, and I met him there. And I was either going to rent a video or I was going to see the next showing of a different movie. I can't remember because I haven't seen Inland Empire. But I got there, and he came out of it, and he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know about that movie, man. Like he was like so disappointed.
Sounds right up his alley, honestly.
Well, no, right, no, because he was like he loved it.
You
He
got to
loved it, but he was
stew in
just
him
like,
though. That's the thing about
right.
the first time you watch a David Lynch movie, like every time I've watched a David Lynch movie for the first time, it's been a long time since I've watched one for the first time, right? And so that's why I want to watch Inland Empire so bad. But it's like you always come out of it like I enjoyed that, but also like, huh?
Right.
Like a little bit. Like
you
need to stew in it a little bit. You need to stew in it.
Oh yeah. It's challenging. You've got to like it's
exactly. It's like it asks a lot from the viewers, and so I asked Mary. I'm like, do you want to watch this? Do you want to watch Lost Highway with me?
Yeah, Lost Highway.
And she's been hearing the name David Lynch on like fucking the internet and stuff. Like since he
sure,
died.
right. Finally, TikTok.
She's like,
Finally.
yeah, I felt like I've seen Mulholland Drive, and I'm like, you know what, you're probably gonna hate this. It's like,
That's what I told Victoria. I was like, it's just we don't need to. I don't even think she'll hate it. It's just like it won't be. She'll be like, well, this is dumb.
yeah, it does. It does.
But,
it asks a lot. You're right. It asks you to be like an active participant in it, like you do. It's like you can't just like watch a David Lynch movie and then just be like that cool, and then it's just gone. And if you do, you're
Right.
like, you're kind of not doing it right. You do got to kind of like,
Yeah.
because it is. It's an art.
You,
it's an
you
art
can't
piece.
look at your phone while you're watching this.
It's
bad
an
boy.
it's an art piece. There's just like it's supposed to evoke some shit. So anyway,
I loved it. But anyways, 15 mil was the budget they had on this, and so
That's not bad.
You know, that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty crazy, honestly, for like '97 David Lynch film, which is you know. But anyways, 15 million, but it only grossed 4 million, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that's his box office. David Lynch doesn't make movies for a profit. He's not.
No.
Yeah. Like everyone who like produced this movie was like, I'm doing this because I get to work with David Lynch. That's the
100%. Yeah, it's like I know even him. Like last time I remember seeing him, obviously, is in like The Fablemans, where he's like John Ford. It just shows up.
Oh
at the
yeah,
end.
right. God, that's so funny. I forgot. Yeah, that was cool. That was awesome that he got to do that. Because I know he wasn't in this movie, right?
I don't think so.
Think
No.
Did he have a cameo at
No.
all? Was he one of the guards or the?
Unless
not the
you
guards,
didn't
but the-
see him, because
one
it's
of the-
like he's got such a distinct.
Was he one of the porno dudes in the like
I
background?
wouldn't
Maybe.
be surprised if he was in the background somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised.
I was mad because I thought he was in every single one of his movies, but now I'm like.
I mean, he's
oh,
not
maybe
quite Quentin Tarantino, where he's just like.
yeah.
Anyway, I got one Reddit. So, Clones of People 2 says, first watch, I'm always a little apprehensive whenever I see a new David Lynch film. I find that either I love it or I hate it, but I always feel something from his work. Yeah, it's exactly like what we were just saying.
Yeah.
This one was great. Mulholland Drive is my favorite of his, and I found this was very similar in its style and substance. A high point for me was the sound. Great soundtrack, particularly Rammstein, and great use of score to create atmosphere, and some great touches like lowering the score in a loud room to emphasize the conversation. Thematically, I really enjoyed the typical weirdness. I found that it unfolded at the right pace where I was fully invested before I was fully confused. Speaking of pace, I barely felt the time go by. That's true. It was like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's. I did watch this kind of broken up a little bit, but it's like every time I was excited to get back into it. Like I loved it. That's the thing. You don't know what's going to happen, and then there's times where it's like seriously like 4 minutes of just like him staring in the distance, kind of walking slowly through a room. But the music's so good, and like the sound effects, and like it's just dude that house coming back together. In that reverse, where they blew up that house and then like towards like taking it back, and it's super slow and the music's distorted.
I like the sound
this is
effects,
so
but
good.
also I'm like, you could pump the brakes on that saxophone a little bit. Like just a little. It's a bit.
No, I know.
Well, mainly,
I
obviously it's just for the character because like it comes through on the radio later, and anyway, it's like his turmoil. He's just playing his heart out, man.
I know, dude.
So anyway, he goes on to say, from my basic understanding, this is the fantasy delusion of a death row inmate with a time loop element thrown in for good measure. I definitely watch this again, and it makes me want to rewatch Twin Peaks. Overall, 8 out of 10. R.I.P. David Lynch. I'm happy to have so much more of your work to discover and rediscover. It's just true, because because it's like his drawings and his paintings are cool.
Well, dude,
and
I'm waiting
his
for
shorts are
him. He's
cool.
done some music.
He's done kind of
His
everything.
music's
That's what I'm
fucking
saying.
weird.
That's why I call him
And-
just an artist. He's not just a filmmaker, but
Yeah. Well, and I want like this is the time now for like Arrow or Criterion or somebody. I mean, because this was Lost Highways Criterion, but like somebody, Film Preservation, Kino or whatever, get on this and make a goddamn box set of his shorts. I would love to see.
I know, because like we
his
had the
shorts in like one place.
we had the Dumbland animations that we got. Remember those?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
I
that was
remember-
like
I
the
remember
only
watching Dumbland and
collection.
Rabbits.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's the only collection. But Rabbits is on YouTube's right now, and I recommend you go into the YouTubes and you watching it. It's so David Lynch. It's really kind of hard to get through.
God, you know what one
but it's
I wanted to
cool.
watch? I didn't watch that he did kind of recently. What was it on Netflix of the like that monkey one? You know what I'm talking about?
does
He did
sound
like a short
familiar. It
film
does
where
sound
it's like
familiar,
he's like interrogating a monkey.
No,
And
no,
it's
I
like
don't
what did
remember.
it's called like what did Jack do or some shit. Anyway,
Oh yeah. Okay,
something
Yeah.
like that.
I don't.
And now I really want to go watch it though because I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, I should watch that. It looks cool. I like David Lynch. And then
I know.
about it.
I need to read his ode to cigarettes too. I gotta look that up.
Cigarettes is what fucking killed the dude. So
Well, that's no, dude. Cigarettes. I mean, it's like killed him and gave him all the strength that he
100%.
So,
Like
give
even
him
though
all the powers,
even though it killed him, it still made me want to smoke. So like,
yeah, big time. Yeah.
anyway, so that's check out some David Lynch. I'm sure this is not the last time we'll be talking about him. in this
Definitely
podcast.
not.
And as far as his influence,
Rip to a legend,
and,
though, for sure.
For sure, it's sad to see him go. And like you say, it's like I'm bummed that so many. We've talked about it before. It's like Scorsese's in his 80s, and it's like
I know all these like.
all
these classics.
I hate to see it. The heroes start dying, man. I don't like it. But shout out RIP. Makes me I want to go just get more into it. So I'm sure one day maybe we'll watch Inland Empire or one of the other ones. So
I know we got it. Yeah,
he's only got like 9 movies,
just,
so fuck it.
I know exactly. We'll get through his filmography eventually.
Yeah. So anyway, I mentioned at the top that I didn't really know where I was going for the theme wise, but I've kind of rolled into artists in film that we have kind of lost either too soon or it's fresh, like David Lynch is fresh. But so next week we're doing Philip Seymour Hoffman movies, which was the actor that died for me that really just kind of wrecked me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's we talked about that when we did The Master, last year or whatever. But so we did that this week, doing some of his other ones, and there was a tie, but Jordan and I talked about it. We're going to go with Doubt. So we're going to be watching Doubt next week. I'm looking forward to
After
that.
Conclave, I was like, we got
I was feeling that too, and it's I remember when that came out, I heard it was good, and I wanted to see it because of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and just never got around to it. So I was it does seem like one that I probably wouldn't watch otherwise, so I'm I want to watch that one, you know what I mean? Because it's Talented Mr. Ripley's really good, and we're definitely going to work that in one day. But I don't, unless we do religious month, like we've been talking, Doubt, we're never going to watch Doubt. So
I know, right, exactly. Yeah,
so Doubt it is. Go check out Doubt. I mean, Meryl Streep, Amy Adams, should be a good time. I mean, it's probably not a good time. It looks
it's not a good time. It'll be well. It's going to be well made because I heard great things.
Yeah, 100%. But
I'm excited about that.
Anyway,
please support us on Patreon and come to our YouTubes and do all that fun stuff.
On the Patreon, you can listen to the Dune 84 one or 80s Dune one that we did. So
yeah, we talked about 84. We talked about David Lynch and a little bit of Denis Villeneuve. So come check us out. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
And bye.
Bye.